Zerker and I own American Striping. I've been striping streets and parking lots for 16 years. Last year I wrote a book called How I Stripe a Parking Lot 15 Years by Myself. It's selling from my website. I'll tell you how to get there in a minute, but first I want to show you a couple of machines. These are airless machines. Airless machines work on a principle that if you squeeze the paint hard enough and force it to go through a tiny little orifice, it'll come out like a spray. No different than if you were to take your thumb and put it over the end of a garden hose to turn that water into a spray. You're not introducing any air there. You're just creating a smaller orifice. Airless machines. This is my Titan. It's a Titan 4000. It's 14 years old. I use it every day. It's a great machine. I've trashed it. It only recently just broke. I will probably fix it. This is my Graco. I bought this a couple of months ago. I've used it several occasions. It too is a great machine. It's a Graco 3900. I wouldn't change a thing. Both great machines. What I'd like to show you is how to put paint into each one of these machines and then how to get the paint out of them and clean the machine. So, first things first. This larger diameter tube is a suction tube. The smaller diameter tube is a primer tube. Larger diameter tube is a suction tube. Smaller diameter tube is a primer tube. The idea is you put the paint into the system in two phases. Phase one is just get it flowing through the suction tube into the pump and back out of the primer tube. Once it's flowing through that 1/4 of the system, we will shut the primer tube off and the paint will slingshot forward through the rest of the system out to the gun. Alright? Simple stuff. Here we go. Suction tube goes into the paint bucket. The primer tube goes into a different bucket, and here's why. There's water in here from the last time I cleaned it out. I need to put the paint in, displace that water, and that water gets pushed forward, and I'm going to catch that water. That's it. So, start the engine, pump starts pumping, it's drawing paint through the big suction tube, through the pump, and pushing the water that's in front of it out this tube. So water's coming out, and if I'm using white paint, now white water will come out, and now paint will come out. And I shut that off. I put that back into there, and I open it back up. So right now, it's circulating through a small portion of the system. Through the suction tube, through the pump, and down out of the primer tube. While that's circulating right there, I'll come out here, get the gun, take the guard off that holds the tip. I need to get the water out of this line. Pull the trigger, shut the primer tube off. Now the paint's going to slingshot forward. It's coming out of this suction tube, drawn up through the pump, coming through this line, pushing all the water out. So water is coming out, now white water is coming out, now paint's coming out. Let go of the trigger. You're done. Put the guard back on that holds your tip. Back in the cradle, you're ready to paint. What'd that take? A minute? Minute and a half? Now the Graco. Two things. See this toggle switch? The pump is off, the pump is on. Remember that. Another switch. I like to think that when it's pointing down, it's pointing down toward the primer tube. I like to think that when it's pointing forward out toward the gun. Those are the only two things I'd like to say. So right now we're going to start like that. Here's my bucket. Alright. The pump is on. I'm going to start the engine, the pump will start pumping, and the paint will be drawn through the suction tube into the pump, and come right back out of the primer tube, and push the water out in front of it into this bucket, and we'll catch that water. So here we go. Start the engine, it pumps, the paint's drawn through here, it's into the pump, it's coming out of this primer tube, and water's coming out. Now white water's coming out, now paint's coming out. Shut the pump off. Put that in there, pump's back on. So right now the paint is circulating through the suction tube, into the pump, right back out of the primer tube, right back into this bucket. While that's circulating through that one small part of the system, get this, houses your tip. It's no big deal. The tip just goes right into the guard, just like that. Now I want to change the flow forward. Shut the pump off. Put the flow forward toward this. Pull the trigger. Then put the pump on. So now the paint flow is going to be through the suction tube into the pump. And it's going to come back here to this hose and displace all the water that's in here. So it's pushing the water out in front of it. Water's coming out of this bucket. It takes about 30 seconds because this is quite a long line. Water's coming out. Now white water's coming out. Now paint's coming out. Let go of the trigger. Put the guard and tip back on. Line it up. Back in its cradle. You're done. You're ready to go. That took a minute and a half. They're great machines. How much I had to clean them out? First, this one. You can think of it as cleaning out your machine, but I'd like you to think of it as putting water into the system. We thought of it as putting paint into the system and displacing the water, and we caught the water. Now just think of it as putting water into the system, and we'll displace the paint, and we'll catch that paint. Why? Because it's the same process. Same identical process. Here we go. This suction tube goes down into the water. So, open this up. It's drawing water through the suction tube into the pump and right back out of the primer tube. So it's pushing the paint out. So paint's coming out, white water's coming out. Shut it off. We don't want too much white water into our paint. Put that in there. Put it back up. So now water is being circulated through the suction tube, through the pump, right back out of the primer tube, just in that same bucket. While that's going on, take the guard off. Now I want to get the paint out of this line, but I want the water to push it out in front, and I want to catch it. So I pull the trigger. This is the paint bucket. Paint is now coming out. Paint is coming out. The water is being drawn up through here, coming through the system. Paint's being drawn through the suction tube, through the pump, through the system, pushing out the paint. Paint's coming out. Now white water's coming out. Let go. Open this up. Pull the trigger. Close it again. Now white water's coming out. Let it run for a second. You're done. Snag number one. You have to do it again. And here's why. This water is what I call white water. If I was using yellow paint, I would just call it yellow water. You can call it dirty water. You can call it contaminated. You can call it anything you want. I just call it white water or yellow water. So let's just call it white water. And here's why. The suction tube was down in this painted bucket. This bucket of paint. Put it in there. No different than if you were to take your arm and stick it down in that bucket, pull it out, put it in this water, all that paint would go into that water, so it's white water. So what we've actually done is we've taken white water, put it in the machine, and displaced our white paint. So now I have white water all through the system. If I leave it like that, like I did years ago, for a couple of days, it'll clog up the machine. I can clean it out. It'll take 20, 30 minutes, but I just don't want to do that. So at the end of every day, I clean it twice. I have to get a bucket. Another bucket. This bucket has clean water in it. Take this out, wipe it off with the rag, put it in the clean bucket, start the process over again. Open this up. Now water is being drawn through the suction tube, up through the pump, and right out of the primer tube into the dirty bucket. It's pushing out, the clean water is pushing out the white water. White water is coming out, now clean water is coming out. I just leave that in there. Pull the trigger. Shut this off. Now water is being drawn through the suction tube, up through the pump, up through this system now, and pushing all the white water out. Now white water is coming out, now clean water is coming out. Let go of the pump. Put the guard back on. One more thing. There's one more drop of water, one more drop of paint in here. You have to clean that out or it'll dry and clog the tip. So pull the trigger. Turn that around, pull the trigger again. It's water coming out, no harm done. about 2 or 3 minutes, no big deal. Snag number 2, what are you going to do with that waste? First, at least it's just water. There's 2 gallons in here and 2 gallons in here, so I have 4 gallons of water that I have to dispose of. Just dispose of it, it's not a big deal. This is why I only use water-based paints in my airless machines. I don't use oil-based paints in my airless machines, and I will not use acetone paints in my airless machines. Why? Because of the waste it creates. I just created 4 gallons of waste. If I had oil-based paint, then I'd have to use mineral spirits to clean it out. That's $6 a gallon. It's $24 sitting right there. Then what do I do with that waste? It's not easily disposed of. If I use acetone paints through my guns, then I have to use toluene or xylene to clean out the machines. That's $10 and $12 a gallon. That's $40 or $48 sitting there. Every time I clean out my machine, that doesn't sound like any fun. And what do I do with the waste? I don't want to do that. So again, I only use water-based paints through these machines. If I have to use oil-based paint or acetone paints, I use a conventional machine because it only uses about this much product to clean, not 4 gallons. And then when I'm finished cleaning my conventional machine, there's not 1 drop of waste. Conventional machines create no waste when you clean them. That's why I like them. So again, I only use water-based paints when I use airless machines. Now, I want to clean this one out. This is done. I need 2 buckets. I want to put water into the machine. So this goes in there. Fire up the machine, the pump is on, shut the pump off. I want the flow to come down to this. Turn the pump on. So water is being drawn through the suction tube into the pump and out of the primer tube and pushing the paint out. So white paint is coming out, now white water is coming out, shut the pump off. Put this back in there, turn the pump on. So now it's circulating, white water is coming through the suction tube into the pump, pushing this right back out of the primer tube into the same bucket. All right, while that's circulating in that small portion of the system, right back out here again. Take the guard off. Shut the pump off. Redirect the flow to the gun. There's paint in here, and I want to have the water push the paint out. I want to catch the paint. So I'm over here, I pull the trigger, turn the pump back on. The pump is running, it's drawing water into the pump, coming back here through the line, and pushing out all the paint into here. Now paint's coming out, now white water's coming out, and I stop. Do it again. At the end of the day, there's white water in my machine. Take it out, put it in a clean bucket, shut the pump off, redirect the flow to this one, down to the primer tube, turn the pump back on. Clean water is coming through the suction tube, into the paint, into the pump, out the primer tube, pushing out white water. White water's coming out, now clean water's coming out. Just leave it in there. Get the gun. Shut the pump off. Redirect the flow to the gun. Pull the trigger, turn the pump back on. Now clean water is going into the pump, back into this line and pushing out all the white water. It'll take about 30 seconds to push the white water out because it has quite a long way to go. White water's coming out, now clean water's coming out. Let go of the pump, let go of the trigger. Put this back on. You have 1 drop of paint in this trigger, in this tip. Pull the trigger, turn it around, pull the trigger, and there you go. It's clean. I think that's it. I hope that was clear. They're easy machines. Clean them out 2 or 3 times, you'll get it. You'll get it. If you have any questions, go to my website, AmericanStriping.com. Striping has 1 P. Take a look at my book, How I Stripe a Parking Lot, 15 Years by Myself. If you want to ask me a question or two, there's a contact page on there. Hit contact, send me an email, I'll answer you right away. I'll try to. I'll have another video on conventionals. I'll probably have another video on paints. I'm also the moderator on pavemanpro.com. It's a forum for the asphalt industry. If you're interested there, go there. It has information about asphalt, paving, seal coating, crack fill, and striping. I'm the moderator for the line striping. You can ask me a question there, or again, go back to my site, AmericanStriping.com, striping